Hey guys, and welcome to Little Black Book 91. We are here with another one of those fabulous, deep, insightful conversations. Well, today we're going to be having a phone in for you guys a little bit later on, so that's going to give you guys the opportunity to come and deliver your dilemmas. Yes, if you've got some relationship issues on your heart, maybe there's something that's tugging at you right now, something burning. Maybe there's a man or a girl that you're trying to figure out what's going on in their brain because something's just not consistent for you to be able to understand, is this the relationship for me? And more. We'll give you that opportunity to phone in and come in and ask us some questions to see if we can get some answers for yourself. But before we get to that part of the stage, I'm here not by myself today. I am joined by two fabulous people. I'm joined by Inner Transitions, and This Is Marriage UK. But this is where I'm going to pass on the hosting to Curtis to introduce our wondrous, fabulous guest. Go for it, Curtis.
Hey, listen, pleasure to be here, but you know what? Let's go. Kelly, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
This is my friend Kelly. I'm going to introduce her and let her introduce herself still, because this is a good friend of ours. She's been doing videos with This Is Marriage UK, about 3 odd years now. And Kelly brings it, the way she brings it with expertise and herself, she brings the truth so that we can comprehend and live it. And it's a lived experience that Kelly's talking about. So I appreciate you, Kelly. Kelly is a counselor. I'm not going to say what type because I cannot remember.
Integrative.
Integrative counselor, man. But Kelly, I'm going to hand it over to you, but you are faithful. Thank you so much for turning up for us.
Thank you. Thank you very much. As you said, Curtis, I am a counselor. I am an integrative therapist. Integrative meaning using different models of counseling or therapy to work with people according to their needs. So I've done a little bit of trauma work, and I do a lot around childhood and history, which tells us a lot about what's happening today. And I do a lot of work with couples as well. So, yeah.
Appreciate that. And also a welcome from This Is Marriage UK. We have those conversations which help people navigate relationships, whether you're single, married, divorced, dating. We're here for you and we collaborate. And this is where we are. This is the panel I am proud to be a part of, actually. And I just want to give a shout out to Basic Goddess, who is faithful right now. Never met you before. You probably met me before, but I haven't met you before. Another round, welcome. And we are going to be, we're gonna look at a video shortly. Bro, did you get the video?
I've got it.
You got it. We're going to be looking at a video shortly, and we're going to be discussing this video. Love it. My daughter wants to be a psychologist one day soon. See that, Kelly? You got people following you, man.
I can't see anything.
All right.
Oh, you can't see the comments yet?
No.
If you're doing it from your phone, you can, but don't even play with the screen.
Oh, actually, I've seen it.
You've seen it?
I've
Okay.
Yeah.
You've clocked it then.
Yeah, I've clocked it.
Yeah, so we're going to be just a little analysis on a video. Guys, if you want to join in on the live phone in today, just let LBB91 know.
I've
just
got
let
the
Kojo
thing coming
know.
up now. I've got it coming up for you guys so you can see where you're doing it. Yeah.
And he'll send you a link by email, and then you'll be let in around the back.
Get me the back way.
This is it.
All right.
So yeah, blessings to you. Listen, what we're doing today, the phone-in isn't just for entertainment. The phone-in is for education. It's for discussion and education around stuff that we are facing. No question is too small, too stupid to ask. Just come with what you have. Some of you have dilemmas. I have to shout out to my wife there, Nita1. See she there? Yes, Kelly.
I can see her there.
Yes,
Yep.
Nita.
You got to send me a big up as well, you know. It's me that you're married, you know.
Yeah.
It's me that you're married when you we're here to educate. So just ask your questions and be brave and come on. Kojo said this is what you was looking for, you know what I'm saying?
They did say that. They were looking for this. They've been asking me. You know, I just said I wasn't going to do it alone because I was doing to be a Derek Jackson out here. You know what I mean?
Bro, you just can't be, don't be Derek. That's what I'm saying.
That's what I'm saying. Don't be Derek. So, we're out here. Nita1 says she loves you, Court, so you're good.
I'm in.
She's already
Back
said
to my
it.
good books now.
Beautiful. All right. Do you want to bring the clip up?
Bro,
You
let's
ready?
go. Yeah.
All right, cool. So let's get this clip up, guys.
To someone who does
Ooh,
not first
sorry.
understand submission
Hold on,
because they will abuse it. You have to be faithful over
Let's
little.
play
Be
this
faithful
again. Sorry. Here we go. We're gonna start again, guys.
You can never submit to someone who does not first understand submission because they will abuse it. You have to be faithful over little, be faithful over much. Woman, you are much. So
whole
I would
lot of
look
much.
out for a man who actually has shown some evidence of how to lead.
What's our thoughts on that then, Curtis? Because obviously you sent that video to me. I mean, what was your thoughts around that then?
You know, before we go into this idea of men leading, which a lot of women like. I think the vast majority of women want a man to lead. My question is, what does it mean for a man to lead? And I ask that question because if I interpret leadership as taking charge, that could become very offensive or scary for my partner as a man. So I'm asking the question, what does it mean? What does someone mean when they say they want? What does a woman mean when she's saying, I want a man to lead? What do you think that means?
Who are you asking here?
Oh, Kelly will be in a hot seat because she's the only lady here.
Excuse me. It depends on what your idea of leadership looks like in terms of within a home. So I guess you would. I'm going to put myself in the situation. I guess me understanding leadership would be, what did I see my father doing? Was that something that I felt was positive, or was it negative? How did my mum react to it? What was our family life like? Was there space for everybody to be able to be themselves and it be accepted, or was it a case of it was his way and the highway, and he didn't listen to anybody? Do you know what I mean? So, and that's around kind of things like coercive control and things like that. So again, I guess it's about what do you see as leadership? How do you feel that you would want to be led if that's something that you want to, that you would like in a relationship? And are you able to then articulate that to your partner, and are they able to do that?
Now, so we've got some comments here. Let's look at these comments, right? And then someone's asking, what does it mean to be submissive? And that's another part of that video. But let's look at this. Someone says, a vision for the family. So does that mean that we're following my vision? So this is the thing, because our parents or grandparents, because our parents are in their 60s or 70s, right? Some of our parents anyway. And in that generation, the man would have pretty much easily dictated when we go left and right, and the women tend to follow, and that's a cultural thing. But seeing that, people, is that something that as westernized people are happy to have? And I think, and I'm questioning whether women really understand what it means when they say, I want a man to lead. That's a very broad blanket statement, but what does it mean for you? That's really my thing. That's really my thing. Koja, what are you saying? Caught him off guard there, bro.
No. I mean, to be honest, I think for me, I think I was researching the other day. No, just a few weeks back, I was researching leadership models, right? Because different scenarios require different leadership styles, right? So that there is a place for a coaching leadership, right? For instance, when we do Bible study, maybe you're the more advanced person in the knowledge of things of God. Therefore, you may be coaching in that arena for a time in a season, right? There may be things like, for instance, we're going to buy a TV. that may require democracy, where we may need to come into alignment and say, what do you think, babe? What do you think? Okay, no, you thought the TV's great? Okay, great. We've researched it, boom. There may be other times where there's autocratic, because there is a crisis at the moment. See, like when crisis happens, there's not much time for deliberations. We've got a crisis. We need to do something to plug the crisis for now. When we get to thriving again, we can then begin to discuss other things. So the different times and seasons for different leadership styles. I think the trouble we're having in this generation is, like you just said, what made leadership in the beginning was men could work and had money. Sorry, I just coughed and then the chicken is coming back to me and coming my eye, guys. Look, I'm even crying now. The chicken got to me. That's why I'm going to eat fish from now on. Oh my gosh. Wait, hold on.
I'm trying to tell you something, bro. I think a vegetarian diet's coming your way, bro.
Ooh, Chile. Okay, so I think what we're seeing in this generation is women do want men to lead. How that leadership looks like is a good leader knows how to use what leadership style in what particular time and season. This is what great leadership is. When you look at your relationship with God and Christ, you look at the leadership styles at a point in time. There's times where Jesus just says, the door is shut, my friend. We are going this way, and it's the only way we're going. Your life is going this way. And there are other times where God says, do you know what? The door's open. If you go down there and you learn a lesson, you'll learn a lesson. It might not be where you need to go, but you're going to learn a lesson. He doesn't always use the same method of leadership when he's leading you. That's what good leadership looks like. And when you're under good leadership, submission comes easy. I've always said this to people, when you're at work and you have a good leader, you don't mind when the boss says, can you go over there, please, and do this for me? You go, right, I'll go and do it, because you trust them. You trust their vision, you trust their direction, you trust their guidance. A good leader easily has followers because that person trusts their direction, because it's not from a place of, I'm trying to dominate you. What we're suffering with in this generation at the moment is there's the plane and the terrain has changed. So where men were having absolute power because they were the only ones working and could control the dynamics of the relationship and could divorce you whenever they wanted to as well. We're talking about Judaism. Then there was a dynamic that was unhealthy. It was one-sided, right? Now what's happened is the swings have, the balance of power swung over again, because now women can work. So now men are now trying to figure out, how do I lead effectively, because I can't dominate anymore. Right, because most men, all they know is how to dominate, because they have unhealthy examples of what leadership actually is.
Toxic
so now
masculinity.
Exactly. So that's where the power struggle is coming from as well, because now women know how have power. No is now in the vocabulary, and how do you handle no when you want to go left or you want to go right? This is where good leadership comes into play, and this is where leadership styles come into play, and this is where we understand where compromise now comes into play. We didn't have to do that, if you want to call it, 100 years ago. You were going left, we're going left. Otherwise, you're going left in the dirt. So good leadership looks like not domination, but it's from a place of knowledge, understanding, wisdom, and it leads with love. So yeah, that's how I see it.
So Kelly, you mentioned toxic masculinity.
Yeah. So I guess it's about, again, it goes back to what your blueprint was in terms of what did your father instill. If your father was in the picture, if your parents were married, what did that look like? Because I guess when you're a child, you understand things from a child's perspective. But when you become an adult, sometimes you can look back at your relationships between your parents, and you kind of think, actually, I thought that was perfect at one stage, but actually, you can start to pick holes in it and think, well, actually, there wasn't much collaboration. Mum served dad food, and we had to eat. Later, daddy got the bigger plate. So I guess it's about just trying to understand gender roles, do you know what I mean, within what you've grown up in. So your blueprint really sets the tone in what you understand of a leader, or in terms of leadership. you know? So, and I guess it's about thinking about you as a person, you know, when you're thinking about leadership or being led. So even when you think about it from a manager perspective, in terms of what kind of manager would you like, what would be helpful for you, you've got an idea in terms of what it is that you're actually looking for in a manager. I'd like a manager that takes my account, you know, that takes my needs into consideration. We can discuss it, but then actually I'm able to trust his judgment. I'm able to trust that he's trying to lead us in the right direction. May not necessarily always get it right, but I trust there's that trust that is there, you know? And I think that's where, you know, it's about really gaining better, like greater insights into kind of what it is that you've grown up with and what it is that you feel that you need going forward, and the kind of man or husband, or, you know, however, whatever your situation is, do you trust them to lead you and feel that they're going to lead you in the right direction?
This is interesting. Someone way up at 8:15 p.m. Elochina says Jesus is the best example, right? And my question is, what does that mean? and again, what I want to do is I want to thrash out what we're saying. And I like the way you're bringing it, Kelly. I want to thrash out what we're thinking and what we're saying, and analyze it. And guys, don't feel like we're attacking you at all. If you want to come on the show and just have a chat with us around the topic, let Kojo know. Be brave, let him know, and we'll bring you in on the chat. What do you think people are saying when they say Jesus is the best example? That's a question to the viewers as well. What do we mean when we say Jesus is the best? I'll tell you what I think. This from personal perspective. People, it's not easy to, you know, I have to be like Jesus, right? I get it. And that means that there are certain things that I know Christ has done. And I don't only look at what he did when he was alive on earth, but I look at what he's done with Israel as a whole over the centuries since day one. And one of the greatest examples of being Christ-like is patience. Now, what has that got to do with leadership? Is because I need you to be like Christ as well. So I need you to be patient with me whilst I work me out. Yeah. So whilst we want a man to be like Christ, the thing that rings for me is patience. If you can be patient with me whilst I spend not 1, 2, 3, but 10 years working it out. Now, can you put in that 10 years? Not everybody can do it. So when someone says Jesus is the best example, I'm like, man, that's a high bar. I guess it's the only bar. I'll give you an example of something that came to me the other day. I was watching this video. I think I've got it saved in TikTok somewhere. This woman said, my husband wanted to go on a business venture, and I knew it wasn't a good business venture. But she said, I let him do it, and we lost money. She said the only thing that mattered, listen, we're talking about submission and leadership now, right? She said, I'm cool with it because the only thing that mattered is that we were at peace when we were going down that road. What do you think?
Triggered.
You're triggered.
I'm triggered because I was seeing some bad business deals.
I think, do you know what I'm thinking about? That there must be a lot of trust between them. That even, you know, if, see, it's a bit of a stretch. It's a bit of a reach for me. But I'm just thinking in terms of how she kind of talked about being at peace. There must have been some serious trust between the both of them, that she said, okay, I'm going to support you regardless, come what may. Now, my thing is, and the question that I would probably ask was, if he's gone into a business that she didn't think was right and he didn't listen, then...
No, they had to choose. It's not that he didn't listen. They were discussing it, and he was like, "This gonna work, babe. This gonna work. This is what I think we should do." And they lost money.
Yeah, but like, well,
and she agreed. Right. She agreed. He didn't make her do it. She agreed.
Is okay. So again, there's something about discernment that I'm thinking about. When you're discerning, and I'm not saying that that any of us are perfect. Like, once you've got discernment, that's it. You never make a wrong turn again. But there's something about discernment about, when business, if you're going into like business ventures, there's always a risk. It's either going to work or it's not going to work, I guess you have to measure the risk. But also, I guess it's about measuring the risk against everything that you have, your family, your wife, what are her thoughts? What did she say, about the risk that he was willing to take? And was she fully prepared that if it didn't work, what was she then going to blame him, or was she still going to support him? I don't know. It's a bit of a stretch. I feel a bit uncomfortable with this one, to be honest.
This is interesting. I mean, I guess we could read this comment because it kind of coincides with what you're saying. Well, every investment is a risk, but was a due diligence done to minimize that risk? That's the question. It's a good question. And I think that's slightly aside from the issue at hand, because she didn't go into whether due diligence was done. She was just focused on, we spoke about it. I didn't agree. He thought it was the best thing to do. I went with it because I'm going to stand by him. And if we make mistakes, we make mistakes together.
I don't know. I'm feeling conflicted. I can't even lie.
Go ahead.
No, I'm feeling conflicted because maybe I'm looking at it from my own perspective, is that I want to be fully involved in what the risks are, in terms of, I need to understand before I'm agreeing and saying, yes, take our money and invest it. And, my thing is, I'd like to get an understanding of what it is that, he's potentially going into. And, again, using my own discernment and bringing that discernment, look, this is what I'm thinking, and then I guess you kind of make a compromise, and I guess you make a joint decision based on all that information. If it does go, the wrong way, then I guess both of you were responsible, because you both made, you made a decision based on the information that you both had at the time, and you made a decision together. That's different. But I guess it's about, baby, you know what I mean? I've got this idea of how this is going to work, and he's not really informing you and telling you of how it's going to be and what's going to, happen. And he takes the money, and then, you don't know the details after that, but all you know is that you've lost money. Then you have to then kind of think, was that really wise? I don't know. Am I making any sense?
Yeah, you're making sense. We've got some comments here to kind of ask a lot of questions that you're asking. When MSM 831, when dating, what quality? Oh, no. Sorry, wrong question. Many people do that in relationships, but get mad when people leave because they are listening to wisdom or discernment. Yeah. So everyone's got their version. I'm guessing you're saying it looks like everyone's got their version of God showing me what to do kind of thing, which adds another dynamic in the situation, right? Let's see if we can get some answers today. If her heart was not in it with him, was she setting it up to fail? And I'm going to put it out there because I'm a critique of the critique, right? I'm saying this. Come at me if you want. I can take it. I think she did a good thing. I'll tell you why. She was really focused on unity, and that she didn't make out that she had an ignorant husband. She made out that, as far as she was concerned, the most important thing when you disagree is that you go one way. She says, my husband is still the leader. She didn't sound ignorant, you know. She didn't sound like a lightweight. She sounded like, and she looked happy. She was like, look, and she got her Bible out and she was just laying out some scriptures on it, right? I don't remember what they were. And I'm like, I respected that, because I'm like this. This is me. I'm like, look, I don't agree, but I'm willing to walk down that road with you. And if we fail, we fail. What's this question saying? I would ask how many billionaires and wealthy people have had failures. The trust is more important than the financial loss. That's what I'm saying, Sean. That's what I'm saying, Sean.
Listen, I don't think it's about never failing, you know, because, you know, many millionaires and billionaires, they'll talk about the many failings that they've had before they've succeeded. And actually, I think that's quite necessary in order for you to learn. That's how we learn. You know, when you're learning to ride a bike and you fall off and you have to dust your knees off and you have to get back up again and you give it a try, and you try a different tactic. But I guess the thing is, you know, does she trust him? And trust means different things to different people.
This is it.
You know, this is just one woman, you know, who made a conscious decision. I'm going to support my husband, and actually he lost money, but I still support him. That's how she feels. But, you know, so it varies. It goes according to person. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
I love that point you make. And this is the reality of what it is about trust. Trust isn't a linear thing. It's not the dream in your head. It's not the vision or the fantasy in your mind about if I could have a man who just take charge. I hear this all the time. I'm like, do you know what that means? It means that there are some things he's going to suggest that you're not going to like.
It's very
what do you do with
uncomfortable.
that? Do you know what I mean? And then what do? Do you only join in and trust him because he's doing what you're happy with him doing? And that's really an important point. And you made that point. So I think everybody, there's different scenarios that will test what trust is for you. Do you know what I mean? And I don't think that any woman should walk blindly with any man. I don't think so. I think the world is full of women who do that. Kojo, what are you saying? You put that comment up. But is that trust? She said that she knew it was a bad idea, but let him do it. So what does that mean?
You know, again.
But I think Sean answered that.
You think?
Right, Kojo is triggered, right?
Kojo, what are you saying?
Man's triggered.
I mean, to be honest, I'll be honest. I think it depends on the nuance of this particular investment that she's talking about, right? Because she's saying obviously, she's backed a minute. Wait till that investment means your house goes and everything else goes. Let's see if the trust is really there. Then you understand there is levels to risk that we are acclimatized to, that we're happy to deal with. Right, so let's say if I'm gonna risk £1,000. Now it's not crazy amount of money for me at this moment. So if I was to risk £1,000 and my partner said to me, "Oh, I don't think that's a good idea," she might trust me she might trust me in the end and say, "Listen, this is what it is." Do you know what I mean? I knew it was a bad idea, but you lost £1,000. Now wait, it's 100 grand. Let's see now if there is that I trust you in that moment.
Yeah,
right?
But so what? So what if you lose the house? What are you saying? The marriage is over.
I know what you're saying. And I'm saying I'm with you. What I'm saying is, my dad always says something to me, which is, when you are married, or you're in a relationship, you have to take calculated risks. You can't take unlimited risks, because now you have responsibility. When you're single, you can take all the risks you want, because in that moment, you only have you to think about. Do you understand? This is why, as men specifically, I want to talk about for men specifically, if we're talking about taking risks, you can take all the risks you want, right? But when you're married now, there is a responsibility. And this goes both ways, to women and to men. You can't just take a risk and it affects the family in a major way. Even if you think it's gonna pay off. Yes, okay, it may pay off, and some people have done it and it's paid off and fantastic. They've made it work. But I will say this: let's not make exceptions the rule. Let's not make exceptions the rule, because the truth of the matter is, when a risk is so high that it causes your family to suffer in that moment, more than likely it might not be the best type of risk. It might not be the best type of risk. Yeah, because you have to consider the fact that this risk now has other factors to it. So there should be a calculative risk. Now, if that was £1,000 he lost, I don't think she's gonna cry about it. I think she can support him in that. If it was 100 grand, would she be the way she be praying might be different. The way she might be asking the Lord to say, give this boy wisdom to change his mind, because it's what he's asking him to do right now is crazy. So I think there are levels to the risk that may change the way somebody responds to the issue. But I do take into account the fact that people have to fail to be successful. I take that also. But we have to be very honest here. If the risk was going to be financial to a part where you lose money and it affects the family's lifestyle, because that's the key thing now, lifestyle, right? Now we've got a problem. So when we compare ourselves to billionaires, listen, they already made their money. They're not making risks on money that they haven't got. They're making risks on money they already got. So they can afford to take those risks. I am not Warren Buffett. You are not Warren Buffett. You cannot do Warren Buffett stuff. You cannot do Jeff Bezos. You know what I'm saying? So you have to work at your level. And a simple analogy is this: if you went to a betting shop, £100 in your pocket could go and you have no problem with that. Now bet 100 grand. You see that is the way that you look at the horses as they run is different. You will feel stress. You understand? Yeah. So I'm with you. I believe that as a man or woman, we should be supporting each other's ventures, but not to stupidity. Please, not to stupidity. There has to be a calculated risk to what we are doing. You know what I'm saying? So when we're talking about leadership and following, it does not mean I follow you over the edge of the cliff when I clearly can see you're going over the edge of the cliff. You know what I'm saying? Right? That's also not good stewardship and good leadership. If I'm leading you off the cliff, that's why the Bible lets, and this is my final point, it's why the Bible says a man or woman who's married no longer can focus solely on Jesus Christ. They have to focus now on God, but also their family. So their attention is now it's not fully now God, it's also their family. That in the same way is the same thing. If you're a businessman or a businesswoman and you've got a family, your focus can't just be my business now, because your family now becomes your business. Do you understand? That's where you have to be very careful. So I'm with you. We have to take calculated risks. Please don't go and bet 100k when you don't have 100k money reserves. Please, let's be sensible.
Kelly,
I'm with Kojo.
you're with Kojo.
Yeah.
I stand by myself all the time. Don't worry. I'm
It's
all
all
right.
right.
I'm all right
Yeah,
to be on
you
my
stand.
own, man.
That's okay. That's all right. You can you stand in your truth, my dear.
This is it.
You know.
So let me ask you, Kelly. Looking at someone who does not know how to, who is being led by someone who is really taking leadership by force. These are women who tend to are quite submissive in nature. I'm sure it's something that we've all seen before. Could you give us a little insight into the mind and the heart of someone who maybe their history, who is not able to stand up and say this isn't right? Because I know you do some family work as well.
Yeah.
And we both do.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Usually a lot of these women don't feel secure. They don't have a secure base. And maybe they've never been given a platform to be able to speak. You know, maybe they've been shut down. So then they may attract the same person or the same characteristics that they may have in, maybe, let's say, for example, their father, you know, because what we tend to do is we tend to attract people that have the same kind of characteristics as our parents, because we can in adult relationships we repeat childhood patterns.
Wow.
And that's usually, in terms of, relationships. So
everybody has to look. I mean, this is everybody. Then everybody has to just ask themselves a question: what was my home like?
And think about the kind of people that you've attracted, and are there similarities to the functioning of this relationship as an adult, similar to that you saw or you experienced as a child with your parent, or maybe you witnessed your parents with each other, So if a woman doesn't feel or doesn't have the confidence or isn't able to speak her mind in her intimate relationship as an adult, there's a birthplace of that. And the birthplace is usually from childhood. That's not something that, that would have happened just as an adult. Oh, I met this guy and, he just so happened to be like that. There is a birthplace because there's something innately where she knows, I better not say anything, or I can't say anything because maybe my view is not going to be listened. There is a birthplace to that. And often it can be very, very difficult to be able to confront that and to explore it and unpick it, So, and that's the thing. It's about people being ready to be able to confront themselves and be open and honest with themselves, with the cold, hard truth, because it's very painful. But it doesn't mean that that's where you stay. It just opens the opportunity to unpick it, explore it, understand it. And the desire and the want to do something better requires doing something different. So you start to create new neurological pathways in your brain as you start to create new habits that then, lead to different outcomes and hopefully more positive outcomes. I hope I've made it, went a bit sciencey there, but No,
that's what we asked for. People in our jobs. I'm a social worker. I'm a social worker. I called you Juanita. Kelly is a counselor, and you do family therapy as well. Is that fair?
Maybe, kind of, but okay. I tend to maybe do work with a lot of couples and individuals, but I do work with children and their families as well. So yeah.
And a pattern. Sometimes it's difficult to get someone to actually see the connection, and if they do get the connection, they still haven't got the guts to kind of step up. And I'm encouraging. Wow, how are we going to get people to change that? They're in a situation where they're with a dominant partner, and this is the flip side of the issue, because to have a good leader is one thing, but to know the difference between a good leader and someone who's actually domineering. We were talking about it just before the show started, where you've got that. We don't want to use the term narcissistic, do we? No, we can. Who will do anything to hold on to power. They will manipulate your perspective to hold on to a level of power. How are we going to help someone kind of address that? This is a tricky question. Tricky question. Where would you start as a therapist? Leave that alone. Okay.
No, I'm not saying leave it alone. I'm saying it's done. That was saying leave it alone.
What do you mean?
If you're dealing with it, that's just why I said narcissist is a very specific word compared to somebody who's domineering. Narcissists, they are pretty much set, and this person has been diagnosed, they are set in their ways at concrete. Yeah. There is no coming back unless Jesus himself.
People can change, bro. What are you talking about?
Not narcissists, unless Jesus can touch it.
It's a tough one. It's a tough one.
MPD?
Wow.
Yeah, it's a tough one, because if you're working with somebody who has been diagnosed with narcissism or narcissistic personality disorder, they will trigger you as a therapist, and that's something that's very, very real. Do you know what I mean? Like, let's not make no bones about it. That's why in the court system, they're now recognizing how narcissism plays a part in domestic abuse. It's real, and it is very, very, very difficult to untangle. So if somebody is living in a home where their partner, and I'm going to say woman, the woman is living with a narcissistic man, just for this particular example, that's a very, very difficult web for her to untangle, because first she's got to recognize it. She's got to recognize that she's being gaslit, because often what happens is that she's been gaslit so much, she is confused as to where her opinions start and end and where his begins. You know what I mean? You've got to, she's entangled with him, and it's about her being able to recognize, actually, hold on 1 second. Something's not connecting and not making any sense here. But that's very, very difficult, and that can take years, for somebody to kind of work through. But again, it's about, people come to counseling when they're ready, when they're ready to do the hard work, so it takes time. It takes a lot of time. So that's really, really difficult to kind of work through. There are some people, and I have known some people who have, come out of narcissistic relationships, and it has taken them years just to gain some insight and understanding as to what it is, the kind of abuse, because it's abuse. Let's just be totally honest here. It's abuse, the abusive, coercive relationship that they were in. And it's very, very real.
This is heavy. This is heavier than I thought. I didn't know we were going this deep. What are you saying, bro?
No, but that's the reason why I said I'm very careful to use the narcissistic word, because I know on this, obviously doing TV reviews, a lot of people always want to say he's a narcissist or she's a narcissist. I'm like, you're throwing that word around, and you're basically saying that person there is no comeback. Because that's basically what MPD almost, in a sense, is almost stamping to say this person, there is not, at the moment anyway, there is no treatment that sends that brings that person back to a healthy state. So if someone is narcissistic, what you're saying is they're far gone. Now, of course, there are levels to this. There are scales on the narcissistic level, which actually, to be honest, most of us have got some little bit of there. If you talk about the scale, we've all got a little bit there. When you do your selfie, you put on there. There's levels to this, right? But if someone is an actual narcissist, like my advice would be to listen. There is no relationship, because you don't know what you're in. If you're still there, you don't even know what you're in, because you're in a pile of doo-doo and you don't even realize you're in a pile of doo-doo, because that's how calculated and devious and how twisted everything becomes, because they wrap you in this world of their reality that makes you think that your reality is now their reality. So you see things as they see things, you know what I mean? So that's why I'm always careful about the narcissistic word, because it's like you're basically saying this person cannot come back, and I don't think that's the case for everybody. I think people have levels. Some people are much more closer to it than others, but it's one of those words that, because it's become one of these buzzwords now. So everyone just says, I was dating a narcissist. And babe, he probably was just really abusive, and probably he's got some issues with mother and his father. Might not be narcissistic, but we can see that narcissism is being more and more exposed, I guess, in this generation. So yeah, trigger alert, if you want to call it. Trigger alert,
Sean Unfiltered. Thank you for that. Trigger alert. By the way, Sean, I'm inviting you on the show. You see the banner at the bottom. Send.
Sean's normally on the show anyway. This guy is always on. You know what, Sean?
He's on. We wanted to call in, bro. Send an email to littleblackbook91 or is it LBB? Oh, it talks. Okay. LBB91 talks@gmail.com. Sean will bring you in. You have some interesting points, man. What we could do is we could play the video very briefly again.
Yeah.
So let everyone know what we're talking about.
Just to recap.
You can never submit to someone who does not first understand submission, because they will abuse it. You have to be faithful over little, be faithful over much. Woman, you are much. So I would look out for a man who actually has shown some evidence of how to lead.
Submission. Kojo, you ready to submit?
Yeah. No, I'm not. Maybe in 2022, I'll be ready to. But 2021 I'm not there yet. But submission for me again is it's important. I think it's important on both sides. It's important because I think as a good, as I said again, if you're saying men are meant to be leading and they're meant to be good leaders, there's an area of submission. There is an area also of trust. And there's an area of being able to take guidance. This is why I spoke last time about how I see relationships, which is more like the rally car. Everyone looks at the rally car and goes, the driver is amazing. Wait till you have a rally car driver without a person who's giving instructions. You'll see how quickly he runs into a ditch. You need both people. And the person reading the map also can't be then doing the driving too. So you realize that both parties are absolutely needed and both need to trust one another, which is where submission comes in, which is actually biblical. It's actually Ephesians 5. It's just that people don't read that part, especially from my African counterparts, because that's what I can speak about. That's the churches I've been into. They don't read that part. They skip 21 and skip to 23 or 22, where it says women should submit to their husbands. And that's the part they read. They don't read anything else. And what it's done is it's breeded a false sense of entitlement from a generation of men who believe that if they're a man and they provide, that automatically means a woman's going to have to follow. She should cook, clean, and should submit. But not realizing that that's not even that's part of it, yes. But is that good leadership? Is that how you want is that how you're gonna get the person to follow, by domineering? And vice versa, what that does is it creates resentment in the person following, right? Woman or man, it creates resentment in the person following because now they're being told they have to follow. And this is the difference why I'm saying about Christ is so important. So we know that Christ says, if you love me, you'll follow my commandments, right? That love is not just what we see as just love. That love is encompassed with trust. That trust is not free, it's built. If you've given your life to Christ, you'll realize everybody has gone through a honeymoon phase where God was just doing things for you. Just doing left, right. You answer prayer. You go to church, they're talking about your message. You know what? You talk to a friend and they're giving you a word. Everything just starts to make sense in the very beginning. Why? He's setting a foundation for you to trust him. Trust is earned. It's not free. So all of this stuff about, you should trust me. No, I need to see a resume. I need to see your CV. Right now, you ain't giving me nothing. You're telling me that I should follow you as a man or a woman, and you haven't given me anything to follow. So if God doesn't do that way, why are we expecting human beings to do that way? And that's where domination comes through. And that's where, wanting to lead and where submission gets twisted. You know what I'm saying? So if we're going to take God's model, my friend, please, if I'm going to follow, I need to see evidence of why I'm following, which is why I came back to that original point about the woman trusting her husband financially. If you've never made sound decisions before financially, I'm not going to trust you. I don't care if it's 1,000 or 100. I'm not trusting you. You know what I mean? You have to earn the trust, which is like that. That's why your portfolio, your CV, your job, your resume, the wisdom that you share will be your evidence that there is some level of competence to what you're asking someone to follow you with. Do you know what I'm saying? Yeah. So if I'm a husband and I'm asking you to follow me or submit in this area, I'm going to be like, I can't just say to submit. And I'm not competent in the area.
Your point creates a problem now.
Go for it.
In that you're asking people to be almost the finished products, so that someone can put a clear bet on them. That's
I'm saying there has to be a level of competence, right? There has to be a level of competence. Where I'm 30 now. You're 30 and you don't know where you're going. That's incompetence, not competence. You need to know where you're going. You're 30 now. You can't afford not to play these games of, I don't know what I want to do. I don't know what I want anymore. I don't know what. You're 30. That game was when you were 20. You can't play it when you're 30.
So for the men who have not seen a leader or been influenced by a leader,
you shouldn't be anywhere near marriage.
They shouldn't be in a relationship.
You shouldn't be anywhere near that place.
They shouldn't be in a relationship.
Go and read some books. Go and read some books.
You have to build. And I think somebody had said that the best leaders are the ones that have been great followers. Do you know what I mean? You have to learn. You have to learn. It's a skill that you learn. It's not, we can all have gifts and talents, but a skill, even with a gift and a talent, you need to build the skill for it. Do you know what I mean? So you can be an amazing singer, but if you don't do any vocal practicing, then you're not gonna fulfill your full potential. And you have to kind of go through, a series of skill tests. Do you know what I mean? You have to kind of refine it. Does it mean that you're going to be perfect? No, not at all. But what it means is that you've got a base, you have a good foundation, a foundation that's built on solid rock as opposed to sand. Do you know what I mean? So you have to kind of be willing to be a student first. One of the things that I always kind of say to sometimes my clients is, maybe us to forever be a student of life. Yeah, because sometimes we can think that we're enlightened and, we've got this all figured out. Yeah, you got it all figured out, because come tomorrow, something else is going to knock you off your perch and you don't know how to deal with it. We're forever changing, we're forever evolving, and we don't even know those parts yet. But what we need to do is we have to start a good base, and we build from there, So even if you don't have, say, like, for example, you haven't had a positive role model as a child, like a father or a mother, whatever, but that doesn't mean that you can't learn, It doesn't mean that you can't learn, because there are some people that have had really, really difficult starts to life, but then what they've created is something really amazing. But they, when you listen to their story, they've taken their time and they've learned and they've, they failed, and then they've gone back to the drawing board and and adapted and tried something different. You know what I mean? This is not a sprint. This life is not a sprint. It's a marathon.
Wow. That's powerful what you said. It gives hope. Like there isn't too much excuse that one could give when they are failing. You've got to go out of your way and learn what to do. That's what you're saying. An interesting comment I saw here was, it can be easy to submit to each other when you have respect for one another, right? It really does look, because practically, some couples I think will have this setup where the man makes all the decisions. I don't know if I'm going to come against it too much, because if it appears to be working, it appears to be working. But I think us westernized folk have to think a lot, because we don't have a dominant culture. So we have to really educate ourselves and work this out, because the ground isn't even for us. Some cultures, it is just a flat piece of ground. We all know what to do. The roles are given to you. It's the only way it will work. But us in the West who are watching this show, we have to navigate this with a lot more wisdom. And it looks like two people have to really then, because of the confusion, submit to each other. I can't see another way. I can't see another way. And I think that means that the notion of men being leaders is something that we're trying to transpose into this society, but it just doesn't work. I think it would only work if we address it, like you said, educate yourself. And I like what Eve said, because it appears that a man who is leading doesn't have to be ignorant of what you have to say as a woman, but rather a true leader. Like my manager in my job, he's a great leader because he listens to what you have to say. He takes it into account, and sometimes he says, actually, what you said is the best thing to do. That's a true leader.
But it's also a putting away of ego as well, because what you've just said about your manager being able to say, actually, Curtis, your idea, actually, that makes more sense than what it is that that I've put out there, that I had kind of planned to do, your idea is actually better. And that's about, being able to kind of park your ego for the greater good. Do you know what I mean? And that, to me, that signifies as a really good leader, because there are sometimes as a leader, your idea isn't necessarily going to be the best idea. That's why it's important, if we're looking at it specifically from a husband and wife perspective, or a boyfriend and girlfriend, or however, then has there been collaboration? Has there been a discussion between the two parties? Have you looked at the pros and the cons together? And have you made a unified decision, based on all the information that you have, and, trying to make a wise decision? Are you happy? Are you both happy with the decision that is made, come what may? And then there be no blame that you look at you the one that lost all of our money, and, selling him up the river, when actually you say, do you know something? We just have to take the L. You know what I mean? We worked it out. We thought that it was going to be like this, but actually it ended up being like this. We're happy to take the L because actually we made a conscious choice together. It was a joint decision, and I think where, and Eva said, it's easy to submit to each other when you have respect for each other. That's where it comes. The respect and the trust comes into that. So you're then able to submit and say, okay, I'm going to trust you on this because you've factored all these other things in. So I think that.
So what do we do then? How do we handle this in the light of what we've read in scripture, and the light of our opinions and all the challenges in our westernized world? How do we handle when there is a decision to be made? I just don't agree with you, but a decision has to be made, left or right. How do we handle that? And has men in leadership got anything to do with that? Does it swing that way, bro? Before you say it, does it swing towards Kojo's will because he's the man? Does he have 2% more weight in the situation because he's a man? Go for it, bro.
So, from my angle, this is why I speak about, if we are saying men are the leaders, we have to talk about accountability versus responsibility, right? So the axe falls on the head of the person who has to make the final decision. So when we come to a place where both of us are not agreeing, right? We probably ask God, and we're not hearing correctly the way we want to hear. It's not definitive. It means we probably can go either left or right, right? There is an accountability that comes, I believe, personally, right, on the man's head. So if you decide that you are the final decision taker, remember that you're also accountable, because you've decided that you are the person who has the power to make the final buck stop. And this is why I talk about relationships, that when we talk about women and men, when it comes to men, we have to understand clearly what this means when we're talking about you leading. It is not a domineering thing, but if there is coming to a point where we are at that space where there's two roads, which one we're going to take, and you've deliberated, we've had democracy, we've tried it, we're butting heads, then we have to, someone has to make a final decision. Mm-hmm. Right? Someone has to make a final decision. And this is where I believe you as a man, you earn your big bucks. But you have to remember, you have to be accountable. Because if this goes wrong, like the woman was saying with the £1,000 thing, you now have to be ready to yield and say, listen, I got it absolutely wrong. I actually thought this was the right way to go. Right? I thought this was the right way to go. I thought it was the right decision to make. And I've learned from that situation. Have you? Because obviously during the course of conversation, you might have said some reasonings, I said some reasonings, and maybe potentially in the discourse of conversation, maybe I was hearing you, but I wasn't really hearing you. It may be that case. And in that case, I can come back and this is why when I talk about having disputes, you don't want it to get to a very heated place where you lose your cool, right? Because once you lose your cool, the thing about men, especially for us, is pride sets in. So once you're at 100, yeah, if it goes wrong, you are not going to apologize because you feel now you're going to feel like an idiot. So you don't want to get yourself to that space. We are discussing. We may have different viewpoints. We may want to go left. You want to go right. If you're saying that man in your relationship is the one that's the leader, the head, then he has to be accountable. If you have the power to make a decision, you also have the weight and the gravity of being accountable for where this goes. Real spit. This is how I see it. You know, you gotta be ready for that conversation, and that means when it goes wrong, you're able to come to your wife and tell her, listen, you know what? I thought it was this way, and I actually got it wrong. Do you know what I mean? Maybe I should have heard what you said. You know, you made some good points, and I didn't see it that way, but you were absolutely right. Do you know what I'm saying? Because if you look at any team in your workplace, if you look at your manager, right, and like you said, the manager will normally manage by listening to different viewpoints, and if there are several viewpoints, he may choose a democratic vote, but it may come down to a point where he has to make a decision and say, actually, I heard what everyone's saying, but this is the idea we're going with, and that's where we're going. And if it goes wrong, where does the axe fall? It doesn't fall on my head. It falls on his head.
All right, let me say this. First of all,
yeah,
I don't agree.
That's fine.
Second of all, I think your wife is actually in the chat. This queen won't quit. But I don't know. Did you have anyone who actually was? Did you have anyone calling up?
No, people had some dilemmas. They've sent it in by email. I don't think anyone's come on, so they've sent it to me. I can read it out to you.
Yeah.
Someone said, now we're broke, Kojo, eviction notice. Yeah. What then? And this is why I said to you earlier on about different leadership styles. In crisis, autocratic has to come in. The ship is sinking. We haven't got time to be democratic. Quickly come with an idea. Let's get it quickly and plug the hole. The ship is sinking. There's no time. You know what I'm saying? Get that plugged first. Once that's plugged, let's now think about a way to now make the ship repair properly.
That's easy. That's an easy scenario.
No, but I'm saying that to make it very easy so that people understand that there are different times and seasons for different leadership styles. Do you see what I'm saying? In crisis, look, let me tell you something, yeah? When the ship is going down in your workplace, now I don't know if anyone's been in a workplace where the ship is going down. It's going down. Fire is burning, yeah? And you're not the manager. And you go to the manager, you say, manager, what are we going to do? And the manager goes, I don't know. What do we should do? And you look at the manager like, bud, you get paid for this. Don't look at me. I'm looking at you. I want answers, right? And then check that against another opportunity when the ship is going down and you speak to that manager. The manager goes, you know what? I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not sure what was that, but here's a plan we're going to do. I'm not sure it's going to work, but I'm going to say this is what we're going to do. So even though he hasn't guaranteed it's going to work, that person's already got a plan. What does that do to you? It makes you feel confident that wherever we're going, okay, even if it doesn't work, I know that he's already got a plan. And so I've been in both positions at a workplace. And when I've worked at McDonald's, yeah? And when you haven't got good leadership at McDonald's, when it's going down, it's going down. Yeah, no burgers are going out, no fries are going out. It is a scary place to be when people are angry and hungry at the same time. Yeah.
Ooh.
But when you've got a good manager who knows how to run the shift, even when things are going wrong, like the milkshake machine goes out, the fry machine's now suddenly gone, with power's just suddenly gone. Yeah, that manager goes, you know what? I know things have happened bad, but here's what we're gonna do. And now you, the person who's following, you feel absolutely at ease. So this is why I'm saying that if we're saying men are leaders, this is the accountability that we're asking for, but we're also asking that in a time of crisis, it requires you to make decisions. There is no time to do this, what do you think? And you're shook about making a decision. Make one. That's where you earn your big bucks. Make one.
Someone made a point here. Where is
yes,
it? JJ 910. And then, bro, bring in dilemma.
Wait, someone just said this. I had to laugh at it. I was scooping more out. Sorry. 910.
I'm tired of scooping the water out. Well, this is it. That's a reality. They want the leadership when it suits them.
Which is it? The one JJ or the one 910?
Sorry, Alice. I was just responding to Alice, but yeah, JJ 910.
Yeah.
That hits a nail on the head for me. You marry someone who is true. You have to demonstrate. If you don't trust them and you marry them, that's on you. A lot of people have made that mistake. It's an easy mistake to make.
What do you mean that marrying somebody who you don't trust their judgment?
No, I'm not saying that. Am I saying that?
I'm asking you.
No. I'm saying a lot of people do. We don't all see the speck. It's like I spoke to this guy. He pulled up outside my house. I was washing my car, and he pulled up outside with this nice Porsche. And I said to him, "What's the engine size? What's the consumption?" He goes, "I don't know, bro. I don't know." And I'm like, for me, I want to know the spec before I spend a lot of money on a car. But we don't always check the spec when we're investing, whether it be in money or in people. We don't always do it, and we may not feel. Maybe he ticks one box, and that's all I need ticked.
Sometimes we're in love with potential, and not the actual person that they are, and that's where sometimes that can get you into trouble. So when times comes where the man has to lead, on something, it could be any manner of thing where there's that need for somebody to take that leadership position and, lead with wisdom. And because you're in love with the potential, you then start to see, hold on a minute.
But isn't that the standard thing though? Come on. And I'm all right. I'm going to start another discussion here. Cole, you got some?
Wait, we have, but just want to add as well. So something I learned. When working in obviously a banking situation and everything, you have like line managers and stuff like that, right? Some of these line managers, some managers, they're incompetent. I'm just going to be very frank with you, okay? They're incompetent. And there are other managers who are very competent. They don't know everything. They just know how to manage. And this is what I'm talking about, the difference between good leadership, bad leadership. See, that person who knows how to manage doesn't do everything. They don't be the best at everything. They just know how to get things done. So they know who to go to, who to delegate to, who to pass on this to, who to make a leader in this area. Do you know what I'm saying? So this is where it comes in a relationship format, whereas as a man, you are a manager. So it's not everything I'm going to be good at. Right? She may be better at working in finances than me. Why am I trying then to now bully my way in to say, no, I'm like, babe, you're good at finances. Listen, babe, I think you should handle the finances. So whenever you tell me something, and this is where submission comes in, whenever you tell me something about the thing, I'm going to be like, okay, I've looked at it. You said that's the way to go? All right, let's go with it. I trust your judgment. That's what a good manager will do, right? The same way when you have your case and your workload, if you have a manager that asks you, Curtis, this is your case and workload, and you say, I've handled it, and the manager goes, I don't think you've handled it. Let me look at it again. You're going to get annoyed. Like, bruv, I've handled it. Did you not trust? Did you not put your trust in me to handle these case and workload? If you wanted it, you could have had it, but you've given it to me. Trust my judgment. And that's the same thing in relationships. As a man, you are a manager. You manage some areas you are not good at. Please leave it alone and let the person who is better at it handle it. Don't come and do macho men and thing there. You die a short death. You know what I'm saying? And you're toxic. You come and you crawl on your knees and say, babe, I'm sorry. It's not necessary. Just delegate. Manage areas. Say, this is maybe not my best part. You should do that part. You know what I'm saying? And that's how you will work as an effective team. And just remember as well, managers are still accountable to the team, okay? And they're accountable to the bosses above. If you fail, the axe will still be on your head. Manage well, and you'll be all right. Now, to the dilemmas you said. I've got dilemma number 1. Whoosh! Dilemma number 1. Oh, I can see more dilemmas are even coming in. Okay, cool. So, my dilemma here...
Don't be Derek, bro.
This one's a short one. It says, my question is, what advice, if any, would you give to someone who has an unhealthy view of marriage due to seeing their parents' unhealthy relationships? Should they focus on being single? I'm going to put that question up on the screen for you guys so you can see it. All right. I'm going to put it on the screen so you can see it. All right, cool. Yeah. So what advice, if any, would you give someone who has unhealthy view of marriage due to seeing their parents' unhealthy relationship? Should they just focus on being single? I'm asking the panel.
Now, you see, you have to have a ladies first thing, you know?
Yeah.
Oh, really? Okay. They should focus on being a healthier version of themselves. So if that means by staying single, then yes, and they also have to be able to recognize that they have an unhealthy view of marriage. They have to be willing to know that, but they have to be willing to want to do something about it. If they don't, and they want to pursue and get married, then there's nothing that you can do to stop them. But, you know, therapy is a wonderful place to unpack all of that, and to create, you know, new ways of being, you know. So yeah, that's kind of my take on it.
I perfectly agree with you. I think that I'm going to echo what you said. You have to be the best you, because it can easily be that you're going to settle with the darkness of that scenario. But I want to add to it as well. I don't think that you can have an unhealthy view of marriage. Marriage is a good thing. You may have seen an unhealthy version of it, but it's a good thing, right? And I don't think you can have an unhealthy version of marriage as a major influential factor in your life and it not affect other parts of your life.
Absolutely.
I think that is an informing factor. Is that fair? And like that's why I said I'm echoing what Kelly said. If that is true, which I believe it is 100%, because you know that sometimes you can look at you spend some time with people at work or family, friends, and you can just see their baggage. Do you know what I mean? You can see it. Certain things that they do or say, and you're like, man, what did you go through? So there's no way that it just sits in a corner over there as just marriage. Everything is everything.
It's like it bleeds. It's a poison, isn't it? That poisons all areas. Yeah. You know, it doesn't it doesn't restrict itself to one side. It bleeds everywhere.
Yeah. And that's why I like what you said. Regardless, just be your best you. Go into therapy. Call Kelly. Message her after the show. Inner transitions. Do you know what I mean? Call Kojo. Be your best you. I agree.
Appreciate that. Thank you very much. We've got our next particular dilemma here. I'm going to put it into chat so I can put it up on the screen. Oh, gracious. It's a bit long. Okay, cool. So I'm going to read it like this. So, I am married to a Ghanaian man who lacks affection, word, affirmations, and has mood swings randomly. We are Christian and married after 3 months of knowing one another, which I take responsibility for. Now, I want out, but he doesn't. We have been married for 10 months and it has been literally hell on earth. I ask for loving words. He can't do it and will say he's too tired. I ask for him to buy me flowers. He says it's silly and that, and I have romanticized outlook of what marriage should be. I asked him last weekend to give me a compliment, and I said, I look good, right, babe? And he said, yeah, but you have to be good on the inside. I want to leave, but I also don't want to have regrets by not giving it a fair chance. This is heartbreaking, this one.
That's sad. That's very, very...
it's sad because it's Ghanaian as well. That's what's sad.
Oh.
That's the worst part. It's a shameful...
Oh, wow.
Shameful
Ghanaian. Oh, dear. The thing is, I think he has to want to... He's got to recognize that the marriage isn't working, that, you know, she needs to let him know that she's unhappy. And that can often be really, really difficult because, again, it goes according to everybody's outlook on what they think marriage is supposed to look like. It sounds as though emotionally he's very cut off, you know, whether he's emotionally unavailable, you know, and maybe he's emotionally, there's a lack of emotional intellect or emotional literacy, you know, which is something that, you know, many of us may lack because of our upbringing. You know, I work with a lot of Black clients where we look at building emotional resilience, emotional literacy, emotional intellect. because that is something that has been lacking in their childhood, you know. And yeah, I guess she can work on herself, you know. I think it would probably be really beneficial for her to work on herself if she can bring it to him and explain to him, this is what I'm not happy about, this is what I'm not happy about. Ultimately, he has to make a decision whether he sees that there is an issue. But actually, she doesn't have to just wait for him to agree or not agree. She can actually do some work on her, you know, do some work for herself, you know, and go for therapy for herself. Don't know if I'm making any sense here.
Of course you are. Of course you are. I made a few points whilst you were talking, and not all right. Let me just go. You know, marriage takes two. If two people don't make an effort, the marriage can last, but it will last ugly. Do you know what I mean? It will last where one is worn out. And if two people can actually sit down and just give an honest testimony, how's it going? That if that man really wanted to know, then he would find out how you are, and he should be ashamed of himself. But actually, it's fallen on both your heads because, oh, is it my phone now? It's giving up on my phone, is it? Again. Oh, here it is. Tell me.
Good. We can still hear you, so you're good.
You can
You're
hear
good,
me.
yeah.
There you go.
There you go.
Switches off after a while. Yeah. So let me go on to the second point. The second point is that his capacity is who he is. So he is coming from somewhere. He was built somewhere. And this is the product. Honestly, in my personal opinion, I'm judging you in advance with what I'm going to say. Red flags were there and you chose to ignore them, right? So in my opinion, unless there is abuse taking place, it really means I would suggest that you work hard on it, because you haven't done a bad thing. You maybe haven't done due diligence, but you owe it to yourself to really work on it. And some couples have been at this for years and have come out better for it because of the work that's put in. Now, I don't think we can exactly describe to you what work needs to go into it in this particular setting, maybe privately, but it can work if two people try. And sometimes the other person is triggered by your proactive behavior. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. There's something else I wanted to say. Putting my hands up, I will never come on here being a Derek Jackson to say, I will be honest about my walk. Like, it's something that I have suffered with, not necessarily to the extent that is mentioned in this, but it's something I have to stay on top of, is that I am not particularly emotive. I can be quite clinical and I have to be careful. I've been married 20 years, but I've had to monitor that part of me. Okay. And when I got married at 25, I did not even know what due diligence was. So here I am, we're married, and what we thought we were before we got married, I didn't even get to see red flags. Do you know what I mean? I just wasn't there. But when we got married, we had to work it out. Yeah. It can be done.
Yeah, it can be. It can be. People have to be willing. They have to be willing to do the work. When I work with couples, one of the things that I always say at the start of our sessions together to introduce the kind of working as with couples is you have to be willing to do the work. It's not going to be easy. It's not going to be pretty. There's going to be parts where it's really ugly. But if you stick with the process, obviously, as long as there's no like domestic abuse going on or coercive, actually, if you stick with the process, you will find that you will come out on the other side, because as I say, that there's no shortcut to this thing. You can't get over it, can't get under it, can't get around it. You have to go through it. And that's where, going through it is often where sometimes people want to throw in the towel because it becomes really tough. But, sticking with the process, and it's about learning to be vulnerable and transparent with one another. That is very, very difficult.
Yeah.
That's often where it is. It's the vulnerability and the transparency and allowing the other person to see their real side, their dark side, their their emotional side, their vulnerable side, the things that they don't want nobody to see. It's very, very difficult. It's really tough. And often it's very difficult for people to admit that they're lacking in something.
Yeah.
Not
everybody has insight.
Not everybody has insight. And but insight can be built. We can build insight.
Do you know what? One thing that I do, we all counsel couples on this panel, okay, or individuals. We all do it on this panel, guys. One thing I do is, something that happened to me the other day. Someone called up and said, I need help. Fine, but my husband isn't interested. So I said, well, you go to therapy because you are 50% of the problem. Even if you're innocent and a bystander, you are 50% of the problem. Start working on you, and we can provide you with strategies to help you trigger, in hope, something better out of your husband. Mm-hmm. So it's not like we're just looking at him being like that. There are things about you that he's probably responding to. I don't know. But we explore what else is going on, because it's not just him. Just because he's not giving you compliments. Like, is he loving you in his own way that you just don't recognize? Because my brother-in-law made a comment years ago when we did a live, and he said, love is a thing, right? Love is a thing where I can love you, but if you haven't understood it, then I haven't loved you. Do you get that? So his love language might be in one, and yours to him might be one that you just don't recognize. And so we trigger, look, are you listening? Learn to listen to each other. There's a lot to say here, but yeah, that's something I want to throw in. Yeah. Next. Oh, you got something to say, bro? I don't know.
Just because when I'm reading it, just even the first part, it's quite interesting that she mentions lacks affection. But what she quotes is words of affirmation. So there are 4 other love languages, by the way, which is what I was, because you kind of said it, but that's what I picked up on is lacks affection.
Be clear about that, love languages, please.
So the book by Gary Chapman, he writes, obviously, love languages is words of affirmation, quality time, there is gifts, physical there's acts of service, and physical touch. And even quality time, if you read one of the books, is actually broken into 2. It's conversations and activities. So 2 people can have the same love language and actually miss each other. So and again, I'm just kind of reading and trying to do a bit of comprehension in terms of what I'm reading. When just by the fact that the word lacks affection, and you kind of touched on it, it could be, and I'm not saying it is. It could be that maybe there is a miss. There's a lack of translation in terms of receiving this love, right? So he may have a way of loving her, but it may be a different way that is another love language which doesn't resonate with her, which is now meaning there's a conversation that needs to be had around this particular area, providing this is, again, like we said before, it's not abusive, it's not emotionally abusive, it's just that we're missing each other in communication. And actually this is similar to a couple that I did counsel around this, but it was only one person, and the person I was saying to was this kind of similar situation. I said, give him the book. You read the book, know it inside out, and give him the book. If he doesn't take the book, give him the audio. If he doesn't get the audio, write down the 5 languages, slip it in his eyesight, so he sees. He's gonna see this by the end, and he's gonna know this by the end, so that he can see where potentially he may be going wrong. Also, to add just a little bit of thing, because obviously I'm Ghanaian myself, right? We are interested in people, Ghanaian people, right? So if a Ghanaian aside, as a male, if they're lacking affection, if this is what genuinely is lacking affection, like we have said already, there are probably issues behind why there is a lack of affection. If it is literally lack of affection and not words and not a love language situation, then there's reasons behind that, right? Which go deeper than just he doesn't want to give me affection.
No, it's childhood. It's childhood stuff. Yeah, and it's about maybe there being a lack of intimacy, because this is where it's really important to kind of understand history. Understanding your partner's history or potential partner's history is everything. It's everything. Because the way how they've been brought up is going to be the way how they engage and interact with you. And you need to be aware of that. But also, they might need to be aware of that as well. And, one of the things that I've been dealing with a lot of couples around is understanding intimacy. Yeah. Intimacy, people can, they instantly connect with sex. But intimacy isn't all about sex. Intimacy could be about conversation. Intimacy can be about non-sexual touch. Intimacy is non-verbal, can be non-verbal communication. So it's those kind of things about, understanding what intimacy is and how do you build that into your relationship. For some people, they feel that intimacy, it's very uncomfortable for them.
Yeah.
Not that, and intimacy is one of those where it's not, some people may say, I'm not a very intimate person. Why? I might go a bit deep. Why? And as you break it down, it turns out that actually it's something that they're just really uncomfortable with. It's not that they don't like it. They've never experienced it. They didn't experience it as a child. And, experiencing it as a child in terms of your mum giving you a hug and touching you, in terms of that, building that attachment, mother and child, or even father and child as well. So if you're not used to that and you get into a relationship with somebody who is very tactile and very, they like to have intimate conversations and things, and they're like, no, you're too needy, it's too much. That may not be that it's because they don't like it. It's because it's uncomfortable for them and they're not used to it. So it's about trying to understand what lies beneath. What is the core? Where is the core of that issue coming from?
Absolutely.
Final word as well, just to add. So like Curtis was saying, I think earlier on, similarly enough, I think we have kind of similar kind of ways to look at that stuff. And as a man also who's gone through things like you said as well, Curtis, in the past, the response to romance can be a little bit more different, right? Because I'm reading it again, and like I said, I like comprehension, so I like reading stuff and just kind of deepen it. For instance, when you're asking for words, loving words, and he says he won't do it, he says he's tired, that sounds like a really big deflection to me, right? And a deflection oftentimes comes if he's deflecting. He's actually deflecting the situation, which means he's hearing you and deflecting. More than likely, if he's deflecting like this, there's a fear behind it, meaning he doesn't know how to do it.
Yes.
He's not even sure how to say those words. It sounds so simple from the other perspective, and I get it. It almost is arbitrary. It feels like, right? Like this is it should just be normal that you can say sweet things to me or sweet nothings in a sense, right? But again, like you were saying as well, Doc, that it's not so simple. It's how we've grown up. So this may be a question of actually trying to figure out. This might be an area of conversation for you two. And even if this guy doesn't respond in a way of changing behavior, this is actually a lesson for you to learn. You might have to learn this lesson and get out. But you might want to start implementing some of these skills, right? Which is asking these key questions about why. I'll tell you a story. One of my girlfriends in the past asked me a question. So you don't pay on the first date. You say you want to do Dutch. Why? And I explained myself, and she heard me and said, okay, I hear you, but can I tell you my thoughts? And she said, this is how it makes me feel when the man does that. So I explained my point. She got it. She said, I hear you, and I totally hear you. I want to let you know how it makes me feel when you do that. Now, I didn't know that. Honestly, I didn't know that. As much as I hear it on the screen and hear women say it all the time, yeah, it's nice when a man pays, all I hear is entitlement. But when she said it in that moment, what I heard was, this is how it makes her feel. So I can start to change that behavior now, right? I can start to look at. I'm not saying that's every man's response, by the way. I'm not saying every man's going to do that, but again, we're trying stuff because we want to try and make this work, right? Sometimes there needs to be almost an asking of a question as to why this behavior actually exists, and there needs to be a safe space created for that person to be able to express why they don't do this particular action or why they behave in this particular way. And this is why I'm saying about even if the end result is you leave this marriage, there still needs to be work that needs to be done, because there are key skills that need to be learned. Because if you go into a second marriage and you feel, okay, they're not giving me this, and you're done out, you're on 2. Do you know what I mean? And you'll be heartbroken even the more. So it'd be better to learn some key skills even in this moment. Try to implement them as best as you can and see if this can work and turn around. If it doesn't, you've tried everything. But if we don't try these things, then we kind of leave you in a lurch a little bit, and you're susceptible to go for a second time round. So, yeah, the why question is always important. Why is it that you do that? And create that safe space. Not why, and you don't look at the person. No, why? And be inquisitive. You want to know why.
Curiosity.
Yeah. Thank you, Doc.
Yeah, being curious. But also as well, I was just thinking as well that what she was saying about the lack of affection and words of affirmations and stuff. And my thing is, what is it in him? What does he represent to you when he doesn't do these things? What does that mean to you? And where have you experienced that before? Because here's sometimes what we need to explore. And I do this with a lot of couples in terms of, okay, you don't like the fact that he doesn't do this. Where have you experienced that before? What is that? What message is that giving to you? Because usually that could be around, some trauma, So it's important to try, and also why I encourage people to have their own therapy, even when they're having couples therapy. Some people may come to me and ask me, do you recommend that I have my own therapy as well as couples therapy? Absolutely. Because there's going to be things that are going to be triggered and that are going to come up in your couples therapy that actually it's stuff from your own childhood that you need to address. Because it's not actually all just about him, you're also involved as well. And you're bringing, everybody's bringing a dish to the party, So what dish are you bringing to the party? Do you know what dish you're bringing to the party? You know what he's bringing, but what are you bringing?
That's what I said. It takes 2. Usually takes 2 to split up a marriage. Usually it's not just one. Even if someone cheats, it usually takes 2. There's another side to the story. And one thing I just want to relate to, and I relate to him in the sense that I remember for myself, vulnerability was scary. It's like
painful.
Something that I find easy now, vulnerability, meaning able to express what's in here. Those feelings, I can look at those feelings and say, yeah, that's what you are, and I'll show you. I didn't come into the marriage knowing how to do that. In fact, it wasn't until I was married where without vulnerability, you're seeing failure. And I recognized at some points when my wife was calling me to be a certain way, because that's her need. I felt scared, but I didn't recognize it, or I wasn't able to comprehend it as fear, but it was. Why? When I was growing up, oh man, we didn't do that. I came from a loving family, actually, in some respects. My parents showed me their affection in ways that I can't do that with my kids now because they wouldn't understand it. Where us old school folk, we can see when our parents used to just smile at us, that was the biggest amount of love we'd ever get. And we accepted it. But nowadays, we need more. Yeah. And when it comes to hugs and kisses, we never did that. So when my wife wants a hug and a kiss, and actually is crucial for the success of my marriage, man starts to shiver. I'm going to deflect. I'm going to keep my distance. That's my testimony.
Yeah.
I'm not like that now.
Yeah.
But that was me being honest. Now.
No, but that's real. Yeah.
Now she, having conversations, she has to recognize where I'm coming from. So this is speaking to the lady that asked the question. She has to work with me now. There's not even a real timestamp on it. So some folk in the comments are saying, get out. I'm like, no way. Not yet. Work this thing out. And I mean, work it to the point where it's worked till it can't work. At least get to that point. She has to work with me And she has to adjust herself to allow me to evolve. I could talk about this all day. Takes two. Takes two. Next question.
All right, so I'm gonna bring the third dilemma. Let me just copy and paste, please. All right, so here we go. So now my question is, I have a very difficult mother who I believe is a bad influence on my children. But as a single mother and having my children's father pass away a few years ago, I find myself in need of help very often. My mother does not respect my healthy boundaries. So if I'm not going to receive her help, she will not accept conditions. What do you advise me to do? So it's a difficult one, that is.
This is tough, man.
It's tough.
I guess I'm touching base with the loss first, I guess. And it sounds like you need help, and probably this is your closest and possibly only help. I've got a lot to say, but I'm going to process it before I put it out there. I would say that it might be, and I'm presenting this because I don't know you, that you may need to have a big argument or be prepared to have a big one. Because sometimes that's a means, sometimes screaming and shouting has its place. If you're saying that your mother is a bad influence, whatever that might be, then you need to protect your children. And I would say that in the process of you working this out, consider that it may have to turn into something big and ugly so that the other person can hear. Because it sounds like you've been trying to let them know that don't do this. And they're doing it regardless.
Yeah. But it sounds like a pattern. So obviously if her mother is a bad influence on her children, what influence was her mum on her when she was growing up? This is often repeated patterns. It's often repeated patterns. So this is not the argument isn't about her bad influence on the children. Her argument is her being a bad influence on her, because the children are an extension of her. This is history repeating itself. So it's like going back to the core of the issue.
Always.
Core of the issue is the difficult relationship between the mother and the child. And once that is resolved, and I think you're correct, Curtis, sometimes you do have to have an argument. Sometimes it has to get ugly, and people have to be very, very open and honest about how they feel, so that the other person can hear, even if they can't hear with loving ears, that they hear with triggered ears and they want to project back, but they hear it. Because what happens is, after an argument, you go into your quiet space and you replay the whole event again, don't you? And you start to pick apart and pull apart the exchange that's taken place. But what then happens is then you then start to confront certain things that they're telling you about yourself. You were a bad mum, let's say, for example, and then it's then repeated. That's something that rings in their ears, and you go back, I wasn't a bad mum, but I tried to do this, and then and that's about confronting self, and that can be extremely painful. But that may need to happen in order for healing to take place. She's had a lot of loss, and she's also lost her children's father. And has she even worked through that yet as well?
I want to throw some more. I would say calculate the cost of that bad influence on the children versus what you were trying to achieve with this help. So, for example, it could be a job you've just gone for or a business deal. I don't know what type of help you need, or maybe it's childcare, probably, right? But you really need to have a conversation with yourself or a very good friend, maybe a therapist, I'm not sure, as to what is the cost? Am I prepared to walk away from my career to save my children? Or is it that great at all? Yeah. To make a protest to mum to say, this is how serious I am. Obviously, we're working blind. We don't know the scenario. But if the influence was so great that I would come on a show and present my case, it sounds like it's quite serious. If it's that serious, I'm prepared to give up my job and not have them looked after by you. I'm prepared for that. If the influence is that bad. And I want you to think about calculating the cost. Is it worth it? Otherwise, if you can live with it, live with it. But if you can't, it doesn't sound like you can, but if you can't, be prepared to pay that price now rather than later. If she's damaging those children, it's not worth paying. You're better off poor. That's an option. It's ugly. But that's my opinion. But I wouldn't go there yet. I'd say have a couple big rounds with mum first. I think that's what it's going to take, right? Because she's not listening, right? Is that what she's saying? She
in a sense, yeah. She said, my mother does not respect healthy boundaries. So if I'm going to receive her help, she will not accept conditions. What do you advise me to do? So yeah, the mother is not respecting those healthy boundaries, you know. So sometimes you just, sometimes you've got to be able to, like you said, I think you've got to tell that person direct, because sometimes, and again, we're blind, so we don't know. You may have said it already. Sometimes we're not saying it direct. Sometimes we're trying to save the person's feelings. So we've said it in a very roundabout way. But we are human beings, and some human beings, they need it so direct. They need to hear it literally, I don't like this when you do this. And not a roundabout bush story that, you're trying to save their feelings, or in a sense, not even be disrespectful in a sense, by trying to save face. But I think first and foremost, like Curtis said, I think I would go that route, which is you got to tell that person straight, direct, this is not happening. I don't like it anymore. There are consequences to the action if this continues. And I think what I'm hearing is obviously you also want your relationship with your mother. You want the help, but you also want that relationship with your mother. And it's a difficult thing because you realize saying no and keeping that boundary means you lose not only the help, but you also lose the relationship, at least in a certain dynamic form that you want it in. And that is the tough choices that sometimes human beings have to make, which is unfortunate. It's a sad reality and a sad truth. And sometimes that sacrifice has to be made because it's no longer just you who is affecting, it's also affecting the children, which you've very pointedly pointed out as well. So I think establishing a boundary once more, letting them know that there are consequences, and actually following through as well with it. Not just saying if you do that, this is not gonna happen, and then you cave in because you needed help. Yeah, you're gonna need to lock it off if that's what you need to do. You need to do that. But yeah, I would go down with having that real honest, deep conversation in hope that this produces a change. If this doesn't, you must be prepared to walk. This is also part of it. Issuing that harsh truth means you have to be prepared to walk. If you're not prepared to walk, I'm not even going to advise you to do anything, because if you do it, you're going to do it half-heartedly, and it makes it worse. So if you're not ready to walk, please forget our advice. Stay in what you're staying in. I'll be honest with you, because if I tell you to do it and then you do it and then you go and then you're like, I want to cave in every time, you're actually empowering your mother to do this more, because she realizes you're not a serious candidate. Do you see what I'm saying? So if you're giving us this dilemma, I want you to know if you're really ready to walk, then we're ready to have that conversation with mother and let her know, this is what I don't like, this is not what I don't want to see happen, and these are the consequences. And I think that is a sensible way to go about it in that sense.
But my dad was at one point in our younger years quite ruthless as a Jamaican parent, right? As they all were, right? But he became like, my kids love going to his house now, right? They want to be there more than they want to be at home. Do you know what I'm saying? It's a weird thing. This is what grandparents do. And that's my dad without loss. However, with mum, let's consider how she's feeling. She's had a loss, and maybe these children are her son. Do you know what I mean? So I don't know what your standards are, but maybe it might be that you might need to adjust them, because this is what grandparents do. And with that kind of loss, they might do all the more. So yeah, I think maybe compromise, because when you're asking grandparents will naturally spoil their grandchildren. That's what they do. If she's doing it too much, maybe we could compromise. But I think the fact that she wants them and is helping is massive. So maybe push for a compromise in your standards versus hers.
Good push. Here is another dilemma. Let me put it in for you guys. This dilemma says, I'm having a hard time figuring out the men I date. I appear to get good men, but they either lie, cheat, or are emotionally deficient. I can't seem to achieve psychological safety after breaking up with my exes. I've all come back at some point or another, and I don't know why. By then, I have why they've come back by then. I don't know why by then. I have zero desire to pursue a romantic relationship, but can be cool with them. This happens to me a lot, and I'm wondering.
Wow.
So the question that I would ask is she attracting herself? Is she emotionally available for herself? Is she loving on herself? Because remember the Gillian, that woman that used to do that thing, you are what you eat.
Yeah, Gillian McKeith.
Gillian McKeith, that's it. But you attract who you are. And I'm wondering, there's patterns. If there's a pattern that's going on here, then maybe it's worthwhile her actually exploring herself and where that might be coming from. And that can be really difficult, because obviously we can often put it to the other person. Why are they cheating on me? Why are they emotionally deficient? Why are they? But then the question that I would ask is, what are you bringing to the party? Because we're all bringing something to the party. So that's why self-exploration is so, so, so key, because it can often open up. It can often give you the answers to questions that you probably you weren't even asking questions for. Do you know what I mean? It can offer so much wisdom and understanding as to why things may be happening the way that they're happening for you.
I would say as well, you should have enough experience now to see the pattern, and you need to kill that pattern.
But sometimes we don't. We don't know. We know that there's a pattern, but we don't see our own role in it.
She's seen enough now.
Yes.
Has she not seen enough?
Well, she's seen enough because she's bringing it up.
She's bringing it here.
Yeah.
So my thing is, you need to kill that pattern. Kojo laughing at me stuff. You need to kill that pattern. And that's a forceful and quite, that's a strong-handed statement to you. In a way, it's like a hand of desperate salvation to say, stop this. Take a pause. I remember before I got married, I didn't see or date anyone for 15 months. Between that last relationship and when I met Juanita, I was like, I know what I'm going to go in at set, because I was in stupid relationships and I had to end it. And the only way I knew how was to just be single. And I mean, nobody. It was hard. Of course it was hard. But I did that. That was my way of killing the cycle, because it was just going to be mad again. And I'm just begging you to just take a pause for a minute. Figuring out men that they appear to be good, but then they either cheat or they're emotionally deficient. So it's like you're getting deep before you've actually had a look. Do you know what I mean? It's like you just wake up, I'm in bed with that person kind of thing. It's that type of thing. Like, hold on a minute. Who are they? Where were they from? How do they treat their mum? What's their relationship like with their family? What's their religion? How do they get angry? What are their values? Do you know what I mean? Like, you need to be knowing these questions. What do they do for a career? What's their aspirations? These are fair questions to ask, because you want to know who they are. You don't need all the answers, but you need to see something that makes it safe before you enter. But one of the things that is a gripe for me that I really want women to be empowered about is that I want them to get into relationships and tick certain boxes before they start sleeping with someone. Not to say you are, I don't know. Before you get into those deep emotional connections where you're really hurt, and usually it's through sex that happens. Know who you're with first. It's almost like Steve Harvey said. He said 90 days. No. Oh, guys, you there?
Yeah. Oh dear.
Cut. Do we lose him? He'd be frozen.
I think he was talking about what is it?
Steve Harvey's book.
Steve Harvey's book. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Is it?
Oh, is it back?
This happens
Look like a man.
Think like a man. Is it act like a lady? Think like a man. Something like that. Yeah.
So, give it 90 days, no sex, and see how that relationship goes. You will not be hurt the same way you are if you're having sex. In fact, when that relationship comes to an end, you will be grateful as opposed to hurt. I'm gonna leave that there for now.
Yeah. I mean, to be honest, again, I like to do the comprehension stuff. So first and foremost, obviously, the men that she's going, what you're attracting, as in men that are coming towards you. These oftentimes there are all sorts of men that are going to come towards you. The issue isn't the men that are coming towards you per se; it's the ones that you're letting in. So because all types of men are going to come towards you, right? They look at you. But there's also another thing, which I think there's a subconscious thing that happens, right? So, for instance, if us men test, we do means testing, right? So we test the rigidity of the door that holds your heart, right? So we test this door, right? We'll look on the knob and we'll twist it around to see, we'll nudge on the door a little bit to see, does this door budge, right? Because you know what I'm saying? And the key thing here is looking out for the actions, right? So if somebody is ghosting you and coming back after 2 weeks, they're not available. You don't need to entertain them anymore. If people are saying they're going to do something but never do it, they're not consistent. They don't need to be there anymore. If people are lying to you, find out, you don't need to entertain them. Let them be gone. You know what I'm saying? Like, the entertaining part is where the trouble comes from, right? And also as well, I listen, you will attract all types of men, but I always say there's something subconscious, I believe, that happens with men and women, right? Maybe it's the pheromones or whatever, or maybe the mind chemicals, whatever you're giving off. But I said this before. I said men are like predators hunting prey. If you look like easy prey, you're gonna be gobbled up, right? You don't. If you look like easy prey, and this starts from body language.
Yeah.
This starts from the way that you speak.
Yeah.
This comes from the way you even walk. I'm telling you, listen. Some of you, the way you're walking, your head down, you don't see anybody. You are looking prime example for who I'm going to rob of your heart, because you're not showing me any confidence, which means probably your boundaries ain't good. You have to think. Men are thinking like thieves. Which house is easy to break into? We're not trying to break into the one that's got the most gadgetry and all the different security around it, right? Because that requires too much effort and work. We're looking for the easy buy-in, right? So there may also be a cause that, yes, the men might be coming, they may be lying, they may be cheating, they may be stealing, like Eddie Guerrero, but really and truly also, they may be seeing something in you. They may be seeing that you may not have very good boundaries, even though you haven't said nothing to them, because they're reading how your body language is. So is there something there? I don't know. I'm not saying that is per se for you, for this person, but I'm saying that also could be something as well, because we're trying to read. When they're having conversation with you, are you talking in a way that's making it seem as if I can easily get you? If that is, we're going to also try and get you that way too, So everything's about making sure you have confidence in you. You show you're assured in you, that you love you. All right? Because all of that accumulates to looking outwardly and externally that smells like desperation. So my final point is, many of us have been in a situation where you're dating someone and a truckload of men or women of the opposite sex suddenly come to you, right? But when you're single, they ain't there no more. Here's why. Because the air of desperation. When you're in a relationship, you don't smell of any desperation at all. You're not interested. You're focused on your relationship. But when you're single, your eyes are open, you're darting around looking for opportunity. It seems to come less. So that there's some consciousness to that. So that may be also what you're giving off as an energy to people, and they may be sensing that. I'm not saying that's the absolute truth, but I'm saying that also is another way to look at it as well. Because as to answer the question as to why men keep coming to that lie, cheat, and emotionally deficient, there are so many of them. There's no reason why. They just keep coming because they're men.
But to add to that, some people just attract men more than others. And I'm responding to someone, Joshua down here. Different women attract different men for different reasons, and you can attract a lot of trash. This is not the issue. It's what you do with it. This is about your choices.
It's all about you. It's all about you and how you see yourself and because here's the thing as well. It's about having a very, very good understanding as to what you require in a relationship. And I say this to my clients all the time. What are your negotiables and what are your non-negotiables?
Right.
And you need to be able to have a very, very, very clear understanding as to where you sit with that. Yeah. And a lot of that is about self-exploration, being able to really authentically love yourself. Because when you really love yourself from a place of truth and honesty, you can sniff, the liars and the cheaters, the crooks and the scoundrels from a mile off, and you just be like, no, thank you. Thanks, but no thanks. You keep it moving because you hold yourself in such high esteem, So again, it goes back to really having a very good understanding of who you are as a person. What do you require in a relationship? What are you bringing to the table? What do you require somebody else to bring to the table to join the 3-course meal that you have prepared? So it's about really, just knowing yourself and knowing your worth. Not everybody needs to be drinking from your, from your fountain. Do you know what I mean? For you to then realize, boy, you weren't, you weren't worth it.
Do you know what? I get that everyone has got different needs and some people just feel so alone. I get that. But I think that you should be prepared to be single until it's right. And be single based on it being right.
Absolutely. But the problem is that loneliness can be very, very real, Curtis, and it can be very overwhelming for people. So in an ideal world, yes.
So is a hell of problems. It's even worse, right?
Well, but here's the thing: when you're not in a relationship and you're looking at couple goals on your phone, on Instagram, and all of that, that can be very, very disconcerting. It can be very disturbing for some people because they then feel that I'm missing out here. Do you know what I mean?
But it's the lesser of two evils.
Absolutely, but you don't. But when you're not in it, Curtis,
I get it.
You can't. It's almost like you're married. You know what I mean? And somebody else isn't married, and then I really want to be married. You say, listen, hold the bus, take your time, learn about yourself, enjoy this season. They don't get it. You know what I mean? Because actually, the desire. It's strong. So powerful and intense. You can find it very difficult to be able to just be present in this present season and enjoy it. You know, it can be very, very difficult. So we're having to it's baby steps of being able to try and help. You know, this is the work that I do. Do you know what I mean? Just in terms of having a relationship have a love affair with yourself. And the first thing I get asked is, well, how do you do that? Right. Here's what you know what I mean? We're ready to get to work. Come on now.
You got to contact.
You've got to read books. You've got to really be present in your body. You've got to heal from things. Take yourself out on dates. Now that people look at me sideways. Something, what's she talking about? Take yourself out on dates. Can you go to a restaurant and eat in a restaurant by yourself and be very, very, very content and very happy? You know, can you go to the cinema by yourself? Take yourself to the cinema by yourself. I used to buy myself a bunch of flowers back in the day. You know what I mean? Every week, you know, it's those kind of things, but it takes time. People have to be willing and ready. Like I always say, you have to be ready to do the work. Ain't easy, but it's worth it in the end.
Kelly, I just want to know, can you check your private chat? Can you see that?
My private chat.
I have to ask.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Coach.
Yeah.
I need water. What the heck?
You can get it. We can get a water. I'll get our last person in. Dilemma in a sense. But yes, no, good, definitely good stuff. And I know some people are asking us us men, if we generally do hunt and look at women like that. And I would say to you honestly, in the past, yes, we did look at women and hunt.
Like a piece of meat.
If you are trying to if you're trying to accumulate numbers in that particular thing, you're not trying to have too much effort. You know what I'm saying? You want to be able to collect some that are easy and then work on the other ones that are hard. Yes, but you want to have some underneath your belt. So that's what I was saying to you. Like, a lot of men are hunting. You know, they're looking for a quick fix. A lot of men too are broken. This is the point, because a lot of men are broken, and they're trying to have a quick fix, right? So you end up becoming the ego booster. You end up becoming, the person that's gonna boost them their status or whatever for a time and a season until they finish with you. And then when they finish with you, they discard you. That's it.
Yeah.
You know, so you want to avoid that. And here's the thing as well: the more healthy you are, the better that you see.
Come on, bro.
This is the truth, isn't it? You're able to suss it out quicker. You say, you see you? All right, got your number.
I'm telling you.
The way you're moving.
And you're gone, you're moving mad.
Yes.
Hey, come on, man.
Thank you, but no thank you. You know what I mean? You start to see yourself in a clear light of day. And you're like, but wait, what have I really been putting up with all this time?
New value system.
You know, as you start to clear away the debris from your eyes,
you
know? So,
you got to get yourself together. That's why I said to people, you whether you're in a relationship or not, go and get your support, go and get your therapy. There's 3 people on the panel that can help you. Do something. Go and read a book.
Listen, I'm always recommending books to my clients.
Watch a YouTube video. Do something.
Absolutely.
Don't just sit there and don't sit there and be in patterns of behavior that are destructive. Stop. Let me stop shouting.
It always reminds me of Anita when you say that.
I mean it in love.
Looking at you.
I mean it in love. You get me? I mean it in love.
We've got our last dilemma. I got Jay in the background, and she wants to be able to, I guess, give us a little bit of a background in terms of what her situation is, and then I guess you guys can give a bit of wisdom on the situation and speak for us. So I might add Jay to the panel. Okay, Jay. Hello, Jay. You right?
Yes, I'm good. Hello, everybody.
Hello.
We're
I
good. We're
appreciate
good.
your thoughts and everything so far. It's been great listening to you guys.
No worries. It's been a powerful movement today. I liked it. But yes, Jay, you had not so much of a dilemma, but something you wanted to kind of share, and then maybe they can kind of help. The panel can help in a little bit.
Just
So-
before you say
Yeah.
anything, Jay, hopefully you don't mention anyone's name that doesn't want to be mentioned. And
I'm not mentioning any names, but unfortunately, this is more of a situation, childhood situation. It's more so with my actual mother. I'm kind of like the other person who had a mother issue. So most of my relationships stem from my lack of relationship with my mother. Um, I don't like to say I was a single parent in a single parent home because my mother was around, but I wasn't raised by her, so to speak. And for parts of my childhood, I was raised by different relatives and didn't really know who she was, so to speak. Like, I didn't meet her until my most conscious memory of my mother is when I was 7 years old and she was pregnant with my brother. So that's the first time I really remember seeing her, though we spent time prior to that as a child. But to find out, the type of person that she was, and then still try to build a relationship with her by the time I got into high school, which fell flat because I chose not to live with her. And so she moved away and chose her current relationship over her children. So that's been the quick dynamic of our relationship. She chose her vices over her children. So within me, that created abandonment issues. Parts of me not feeling complete because the love wasn't there. And I kind of known where it was coming from, but until I really sat down and really got into it, I lashed out in relationships, or I wouldn't be attached in a lot of relationships growing up because of it. And so, it kind of created problems until I came to the thing is like, okay, I can't blame the person I'm trying to be with to fill a void that they're never going to be able to do. Because what that hold is from a parent that's supposed to, I say, give me unconditional love, and she just wasn't capable of doing it. And so now we are in this space. We've had a physical altercation. We have plenty of verbal altercation. And now I'm in a space too where I want to love my mother the way I want to love her, but I have to keep her distant. Because every time I let her in, she does something that just keeps poking at me. And it's hard to feel like a child of God, so to speak, when I'm missing that love. So it's kind of like, how do I feel whole, but still keep that distance from my sanity?
First, I just want to acknowledge and thank you for being completely just open and transparent and vulnerable, this evening, because, that is really, really, really tough what you've experienced. That's an attachment issue, and that's not your issue, that's your mother's issue. And it's almost like you're stuck in the space of being that little girl, that little 4, 5, 6, 7-year-old little girl who wanted her mother's love and never got it. And you're still, although you're an adult, you're a little girl. Emotionally, you're a little girl still trying to get that love from your mum. And it sounds as though that your mum's not able to do that. And that can be really, really difficult to be able to come to terms with when your mother is not able to mother you, to love you unconditionally the way that you need to be loved. And that doesn't mean that you're not worthy of that, because you are. It's just that your mother, she's not capable of doing that. She's not capable of being able to do that. And I would you know, I would really kind of think about, for you personally, it's about the healing journey, about, are you in, you know, maybe looking at having some kind of therapy to heal from that that broken attachment, because that's really tough, very, 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 very tough. And but it's not impossible. Yeah, I just want to give you that hope that it's not impossible at all. There, you know, I've counseled many, many people who they don't have that relationship with their parent. The parent wasn't capable, but they've been able to forgive their parent over time. But first, I think it's about the healing process and being able to get that repressed rage that's within you out, because that becomes toxic. And then you then carry that into all areas of your life. So you talked about the patterns of the relationships. You won't attach. You don't feel safe. You don't feel secure. You don't have a secure base. You don't have a place to work from, a platform to work from. So it's almost like you're expected to automatically, magically know how to have a healthy relationship with somebody, but it wasn't shown to you. You didn't experience that. So how would you expect yourself to then be able to then pay that forward? You know, it's almost like you're placing some really, really far-reaching expectations on yourself. And I'm wondering, are you able to take yourself off the hook and be able to just allow yourself to feel what it is that you need to feel? The anger, the rage, the resentment, the upset, everything.
Let me see. Like, I know you mentioned forgiving. I have forgiven her. I have talked to God about forgiving her, forgiving myself for holding on to things. But every time I do, and I don't forgive her, like for her to give me her response, I don't do it that way. But every time I do, and I let her back in, she does something again. Yeah. And so it's hard to heal when somebody keeps peeling back the wound, just keeps pulling at it every single time. And that's my problem, because I feel like sometimes I have no boundaries in my relationship, because I can't seem to set a boundary with her because she's my mother.
Yeah.
And she was the one person, like I said, I grew up with other family members. So she was one person that I longed for, I begged for, I prayed to God for. And some days I do wish I didn't. You know, that's just being the God honest truth. I wish I didn't. But there's a beauty in my mom.
Wow.
There's great qualities I've seen her perform. She's, you know, and I'm gonna be honest, I don't want to tell all my mom's business, but at a young age, she ended up getting addicted to drugs. And so that's one of her vices. Men and drugs are her vices. And so it's like, I know her childhood, I know her experience. I took the time to learn her so I can try to understand, so I can try to relate, but it's just, something is just within her that she just won't.
But that's your mother's stuff though, isn't it? That's your mother's wounds. So if she became addicted to drugs, and obviously, and you know, in terms of men, those were her vices. Those vices are covering a much deeper issue. And this is why I say it goes back to capacity. Mum doesn't have capacity to be able to love you and to take care of you the way that she needed to take care of you. She didn't have the capacity. But she maybe doesn't recognize that she doesn't have the capacity to do that.
You know, I hear what you're saying, and I agree with you. In talking to her on several occasions, it's not that she doesn't have the capacity, she doesn't want to. She doesn't even want to take accountability. She'll rather act like she doesn't know what I'm talking about, try to act like she can't remember things. But her memory is very deep. She remembers the things that she wants to remember, the parts of it. She'll remember the parts that she feel like she did for you. Mm-hmm. And she'll try to guilt me. That's her thing now. It's like, I'm your mother. As if I owe her something.
But that goes back to capacity again. It is capacity. She doesn't have the capacity. The fact that she can only remember the small acts that she did do, seems to, they call it cognitive dissonance.
Sorry.
Cognitive dissonance, where, she's making a choice not to remember the things that she doesn't. She does remember it. She just can't tolerate the feelings that comes with it. So what she then does is she then projects it. She projects it onto you. She projects it onto others. I am your mother. It's projection. This is clear projection from her.
Okay. Sorry about that.
Can I add a couple of things in?
Yes, please.
You know how brave you are to come on, man. It's brave.
It's brave.
Yeah? And I think that the fact that you are here and how you got here shows that you're actually, in my opinion, on the right path. You're doing what needs to be done. But I want to throw some things at you because I think everybody in this panel can relate to kind of some kind of attachment and relationship issues with the people that are most important to us. I can definitely. I don't know how much I can say about my life on here because they're still alive, right? But there are real issues going on. And one thing that helped me was having to look at this situation. And I'm in agreement with Kelly, looking at this situation through a different set of lenses. Because capacity doesn't mean that someone isn't aware. So when I look at my dad, and if I was to take him back through some of the old memories of stuff that we, weren't so nice. Some things he doesn't remember. And I recognize some things, and not just him, it's other family members too. It will be damaging to take them back because they don't have the ability to unpack it and pack it away. Because they've never been given those skills, because they've never had that relationship with anyone to do that with. They've never seen it done. And my dad is mid-60s now. I won't take him back there. So I had to re-look at my approach to some of the problems that we had. Yeah. And my approach was, I recognize he is deficient where he is. I leave him there. And this is interesting now because this goes on to this whole forgiveness thing. Because forgiveness isn't a one-off event. It's every day. Reminding yourself that this person is broken. And they will struggle to... If you were to take your mother on a journey back and then bring her back here, she wouldn't make it. So you have to now love her how broken she is.
Yeah.
You also have to do that for yourself simultaneously. Both of you all have got some cracks and fractures. You're going to have to love those fractures. This is who I am. This is who my mom is. And as you grow in that process, if I can encourage you, what will happen is this. You find more peace because you care less about the mess. I would love to fix things. My mom has passed away 11, 12 years now. I would love to go back. But if I was to do that with my mom, and I remember we tried to with my mom, it didn't work. That's what we mean by capacity. It's not that she isn't aware, but she cannot unpack it. Because when you unpack these problems because obviously if you say your mom was she's pacifying with self-medicating with drugs. She's learned a mechanism. It's a powerful mechanism to hide problems, which suggests that she's never had an outlet to cope with stuff that's really hurt her. She's probably gone through something similar to you. But my mum, if I had to take my mum back to where I was, what hurt me and her failures, she wouldn't make it back to 2021. It would be damaging for her. So I love her where she is. She was broken. She did her best. And all the denial that she was operating in, I have to leave her there, and I will love her where she is. And if she needs me, although she's passed, I'm saying it like this, same for my dad. If he needs me, I'll be there. I won't bring up the past. I will manage and accept what I have now. And you know what that does? All those holes that are missing in me, they start to get filled up with love. It's just accepting that she's broken. And the only way for us to make it is if we just accept that we're broken and it's okay. That's tough, because I'd love to say to you, take this pill, read this book, see this person, and they'll fix it. But they can't. You can only just begin to accept people broken and love them broken. That's not everything. That's just something that I can give you.
There's something about reparenting yourself. So it's the inner child work, you know, because what then happens is we can often enter into adult relationships, you know, with partners, and the expectation is for them to feed that void that was the responsibility of our parents. And our partners are going to fail every time because that's not their job. It's not their job to be, you know, the mother or the father that you didn't have and to love you that way. Their role is to love you as the adult woman, you know, as a whole woman. And that's where often there can be a lot of really, really difficult relationship dynamics. They let you down, you become upset. You know, it's a cycle that goes around. But it's important for us to learn to reparent ourselves, self-soothe, you know. Could be, you know, things like giving yourself a hug, giving yourself affirmations on top of prayer and spiritual work, you know. But there's things in order for you to fill that hole. And, you know, when we talk about forgiveness isn't necessarily something that's easy to do, you know, and forgiveness comes in stages, because there are going to be there's times you're saying that you've forgiven your mum, but when your mum is ready, she'll
Trigger.
bring you back to that place. And you're just like, what is going on? So then it's almost like you have to learn to forgive her again. It's a constant, over and over and over again. And it's okay to have not forgiven her at this moment and time. It's okay. And give yourself that space to be able to work through, heal, reparent yourself, create boundaries, because it's hazardous to put yourself in the firing line of your mother's toxicity, because it just continues to re-trigger you over and over and over again. So it's important to create safe boundaries, and that's okay. It's okay to create safe boundaries. And even if your mum doesn't like it, you are creating a boundary around yourself to make yourself safe, because that's what you're doing to reparent yourself, to create safety and security for you. And it's okay if people don't like it. And as you start to really heal, you'll have the space to be able to heal properly. So when your mum, you know, starts, you know, doing things to try and provoke you or to annoy you, it won't necessarily bring you back to that place. It will be annoying, and you just think, okay, she's doing what she normally does. This is a pattern. You're able to move. You're able to step back from it and detach yourself from it, and know that it's not me she's doing this to. This is about her. So you're able to then look at her with grace and compassion and love, but from afar, you know, safe distance. So, go on, Kurt.
And I want to add in, don't take advice from anyone who sends you towards a direction of cutting off and hatred or living in your anger. Move away from those people. Actually, the only way forward that is safe, the route that you go through that leaves you with the least scars, the least damage for you, maybe your partner or your children, that leaves you with less damage, impacting more on your mother who was already damaged, is grace and love. And probably the biggest of them is grace. Grace means you messed up. You are messed up, but I'm still here. And like Kelly said, you do that at a safe distance. You can grow in that distance. Because I remember working with I met this young lady whose mother had cancer. And it was her and her brother, 2 children. And the mother was an African woman married to a white man. And that's crucial to know, right? Because she loved the man, but the man didn't love her. He gave her 2 children. And the son didn't want anything to do with the mum, or he didn't really pay any attention to mum at all. She's in a hospice, means that she's only got a few weeks to live. She's taken out all her anger on her daughter forever. And the daughter said to me, why is she doing this? I'm the only one that cares for her. Why is she doing this? And the son hasn't even seen her yet, though she's been in there for about a month, right? And I said to the girl, how do you feel? She says, you know something? And everyone has got different capacity. She said, I will love her even if she hates me. She says, I will never stop. She blew my mind.
It's powerful.
She says, I know what my brother is. My brother is useless. He doesn't care. And my mum loves him more than me. It doesn't add up. That's the thing about grace. It doesn't add up. You feel like you're giving and giving and giving. That's what grace. But what we don't realize is that what we're putting into others, we're putting into ourselves. So this girl says she would never stop. And her mum died a few weeks later. And she was at peace. She told me, she goes, my mum died. I'm at peace. Why? Because she did things the right way. She didn't hold on to that ugly stuff. She let it go. And that makes you look weak. And it can make you feel like you lost, but actually you gain and you win. There's no other way. So it's like we're learning. And I'm talking to you. I'm talking to myself. That's me.
I was going to quickly suggest something as well. What I often recommend books to like my clients that I work with. And they're usually books that I've actually read myself. I don't like recommending things that I've not read. And it's a book called Adult Children of Emotionally Immature Parents. And it's about how to heal from distant, rejecting, parents that were unable and incapable of being able to love you and look after you the way that you needed to. It's a very, very, easy book to read, to digest. Take your time, and part of kind of your healing, while you're going through this season is maybe really reviewing who you have around you. Have you got a village around you who can hold you up or can allow you to cry those uncontrollable tears, Because not everybody can go into therapy for various different reasons. But what you can do as something that can be done quite immediately is creating a village for you as part of your healing process, because that's the resource, and books and things like that. And if you choose to, in time or however, I don't know what your situation is, then maybe thinking about therapy, But, I think it sounds as though, from what I'm hearing, you're ready. You're ready for healing. You're here. You've come and you've bravely, spoken to us openly. So to me, that tells me that you're ready. You're actually here. You've started your healing journey.
Yeah. Yeah. Well
You
done.
know?
Thank you guys. I appreciate
Yeah.
you guys' words. I hear everything you guys say and stuff. And don't get me wrong, I have not stopped loving my mother. It's from a distance just right now.
Absolutely. Yeah. You have to create safety for yourself. It's hazardous to put yourself in the line of fire, and sometimes we can get it twisted. Sometimes we think that forgiveness and grace and mercy looks like we have to continually put our feet to the fire. You have to be the sacrificial lamb. No, you don't. You don't need to be the sacrificial lamb. You can put those boundaries in place and you can love from a distance. Doesn't mean that you don't love her, but it means that you prioritize yourself, and that's okay. Yeah.
Mhm. Thank you.
You're so welcome.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Coach.
No worries, man. Wow, man. Well done. Inner Transitions. This is Marriage UK. Jay, oh man, that was a powerful conversation. I was just taking in a lot of what you guys said. So I really appreciate, Jay, your honesty, and you coming on here as well and sharing your heart, man. I can see a lot of people in the comment section as well, have taken to you as well and taken to the story that you've given. I shouldn't say story, your truth. And I know other people who watch this after will be able to identify and hopefully they'll be able to take away some of the great kind of advice that was given by both This Is Marriage UK and Inner Transitions, because these things are difficult and painful scenarios we are dealing with, so yeah, again, thank you so much, panel, and thank you, Jay, as well, for having this. Audience members, we have reached the end of this month's, I guess, phone-in live. I didn't know it was going to get so deep, but I don't know what I expected. It always gets deep when I'm with This Is Marriage UK and Inner Transitions as well. I've seen the audience well, speaking such highly of you, saying you speak with love and care. So it's good to have you on board. Good to have you sharing your thoughts as well and giving great advice as well alongside This Marriage UK. So audience members, look, I can see that this is something that you guys asked me for a very long time, and I was not trying to do it. Okay, all right, but there is safety and there is wisdom amongst the counselors. Okay. So we have been blessed to have some counselors on here who are giving some expertise, and so we will. Someone said it can't be once a month. Wow, they're trying to get us in. Listen. If you need this one, you have to go and call them and get their expertise personally. But we will be back here at the end of next month. I don't know if maybe we might even do one in the midway. We'll see what happens. But definitely we have one at the end of next month. We'll give you guys a date ahead of the time. I'll work that in with Curtis and myself, and if Inner Transition, if you're free again, it'd be beautiful to have you on board. I think it gives us an eloquent balance when you're on here as well. So, man, this has been a conversation, man. Just the whole 2.5 hours been deep.
For us in the UK, it's bedtime.
It's deep. It's deep. So we gonna round it off. But let me let Inner Transitions and There Is Some Marriage UK just give final thoughts for tonight, and then we'll round off and sound off. Inner Transition, if you wanna go first and let us know your final thoughts and conclusions tonight.
Oh, what do I have to say? It's been amazing. I feel so humbled, for the questions. And Jay, thank you, for coming forward. I'm just blown away by your vulnerability and your transparency. Thank you. You've not only have you taken gems for yourself, but you've also created a healing space for others as well. So, you know, this is you, you know, you've changed lives, you know. So thank you for allowing me to be part of that. Thank you for allowing me to be part of this evening. It's been an absolute blessing. I'm still processing, but I'm just humbled and I'm in awe. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, you know, well done for coming on. You'll do well. I think you'll do well, and we expect that too. I just want to say advice to everybody with the topic in general, and the topics in general. Love and humility are the grease in the cogs. Don't try and go anywhere without them. You won't go far, you know. And you don't have to do like some of us out here who learn the hard way. Get that grease in early. Get that humility in today. There's too much loss when we try anything else. It's not even worth it. It's the only thing we have that is just a sure thing. So yeah, get that in there. That's my word for now.
Beautiful stuff. Well, audience members, thank you again once more for joining us. I know you stuck with us for 2.5 hours. Then again, you guys are used to this by now, so you've got lots of stamina. So we do honestly appreciate you guys joining us. Look, we're gonna be here next month. I'll give you guys a date in due time. But if you do have dilemmas you want to hit us with by next month, listen, my email's running along at the bottom there. Hit us up on email. And we'll run your dilemma for next month. What I want to also say as well, I'm gonna get Inner Transitions and This Marriage UK. I'll put their details in the description box. So if you guys actually need, you know, to get counselling outside of this, you need deeper counselling, because look, this is we only have 2.5 hours. I'm gonna be honest with you, it's not enough time to delve into your issues in full depth. So, you know, as much as we're offering this, I want to make sure you guys are aware there are spaces, there are people who are doing great work, who are helping people heal and begin that healing journey as well. So I'll put their details in the description box so you guys can reach out to them. Hey, I didn't say it's free. Please, people, don't come there. This is not a service that's been offered for free. This is when you have to pay, okay? But it'll be worth it. You know what I mean? So I'll put the details in the description box so you guys can reach out to them. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for being respectful. Thank you for having honest, real, and heartfelt conversations in the comment section. We'll be back again next month, I can assure you, for an even better, greater, deeper conversation. So guys, make sure you like, share, subscribe, and click on that bell button. All right? We appreciate you. Stay locked and stay loaded. We'll see you very, very soon.